High school basketball in America in the 1970s was pure drama. Not just a sport, but community theater where heroes were made and legends were born in small gymnasiums packed with people who knew every player's family history and shooting percentage. The 1970s were golden years for high school basketball. This was before the three-point line changed strategy, before AAU and travel teams dominated youth sports, and before athletic scholarships made high school sports primarily about college recruitment. Basketball was local entertainment, played by local kids for local pride. High school gyms became temples where entire communities gathered to witness athletic artistry, where a hot shooting night could make a player famous throughout the county, and where coaches were respected figures whose authority was absolute and unquestioned. Let's walk through what high school basketball was actually like in the 1970s in America. Let's step into that world. The gymnasium was the heart of the school. Old hardwood floors, polished to a mirror shine, fold-out bleachers that creaked under the weight of packed crowds. The baskets had no padding on their supports. Windows sat high near the ceiling and could not be opened. The gym was utilitarian, but sacred space. Walking into the gym during a game meant an immediate sensory assault. The sound of sneakers squeaking on hardwood, leather basketballs bouncing with rhythmic percussion, and the roar of the crowd amplified in the enclosed space. The smell of floor wax, sweat, and overheated bodies. The court itself was regulation size, but it felt smaller, with crowds pressing close to the boundaries. There was no three-point arc yet. That would not come until the late 1970s and early 1980s. The key was narrower. The game was played closer to the basket with different strategies and skills. Players wore short shorts that would look ridiculous today. They wore canvas Converse All-Stars or leather high tops, knee-high socks, and simple cotton jerseys with numbers but no names. The uniforms were functional rather than fashionable, designed for performance rather than for marketing. The basketball was genuine leather with visible laces. The ball had a weight and a feel that synthetic balls could not match. Players could grip it properly for shooting. The leather developed character with use, with smooth spots and rough spots, perfect for developing touch and feel. Game preparation began hours before tip-off. Players arrived early to warm up, shoot around, and get into game mentality. The ritual of taping ankles, stretching, and taking practice shots was meditation and preparation combined. Junior varsity games started at 6 p.m. It was usually sparsely attended, except by parents and girlfriends. The junior varsity game was where younger players learned and where older players who could not make varsity had one last chance to contribute. These games were developmental, but they were competitive. Varsity warm-ups were choreographed performances, layup lines, passing drills, shooting routines. The home team always warmed up last. The crowd would study the opponent's size, speed, and shooting ability during warm-ups. First impressions mattered. The starting lineup introduction was theater. Players ran to center court when their names were announced. The gym lights would dim for dramatic effect. The crowd cheered loudest for local favorites. The introduction built anticipation and energy. Coaches wore suits and ties to every game. They paced the sideline, shouted instructions, and argued with officials. The coach was an authority figure whose word was law. Players feared disappointing their coaches more than losing games. Coaching was teaching, motivating, and intimidating at the same time. The officials were known quantities in local leagues. Fans knew their tendencies, strengths, and blind spots. Home court advantage included knowing which officials favored physical play versus finesse basketball. The relationship between officials and crowds was adversarial, but respectful. Timeout huddles were intense strategy sessions. Players gathered around coaches for instruction, motivation, and adjustment. The huddles were brief, but crucial. Coaches had limited timeouts, and they used them strategically for momentum changes and teaching moments. Team play dominated individual heroics. Set plays were run repeatedly until perfected. Players knew their roles, and they stayed within them. The pick and roll, the give and go, and the screen away were fundamental plays, run to perfection. Basketball was systematic rather than improvisational. Shooting was pure technique. No three-point line meant different shot selection. Mid-range jumpers, post moves, and layups dominated scoring. Players developed shooting touch through hours of practice. The fundamentals were emphasized over athleticism. The crowd was knowledgeable and engaged. Fans understood strategy, new player tendencies, and followed game flow intelligently. The student section was organized and loud. Adult fans were passionate but respectful. Everyone understood basketball at a sophisticated level. Halftime entertainment was simple. The marching band played fight songs and popular music. Cheerleaders performed routines. Sometimes youth league teams played abbreviated games. The entertainment was community-centered rather than professional. Halftime in the locker room was strategy and motivation. Coaches diagrammed adjustments on chalkboards. Players rehydrated and refocused. The halftime speech could change game outcomes and season trajectories. 15 minutes to fix problems and inspire effort. The fourth quarter was when legends were made. Close games created intense pressure and incredible performances. Players elevated their games when everything mattered. The fourth quarter separated good players from great players and memorable games from forgotten ones. Overtime was pure drama, sudden death basketball where every possession mattered. The crowd was on its feet for an entire overtime period. Players displayed courage, skill, and determination that created lifelong memories for everyone present. Post-game emotions were immediate and intense. Winners celebrated on the court with teammates and fans. Losers walked off devastated, already replaying mistakes and missed opportunities. The joy and agony were genuine and public. Local newspaper coverage was extensive, with game stories, box scores, photographs, and season statistics. The sports page was required reading for basketball fans. Players checked newspaper coverage to see their names in print and their statistics recorded for posterity. Rivalry games were community events that transcended sports. Schools sold out their gymnasiums weeks in advance. Alumni returned specifically for rivalry games. The intensity was higher, the crowd louder, and the stakes more meaningful than regular season games. Tournament time was when seasons were defined. Single elimination created intense pressure and incredible drama. One bad game meant the season was over. Tournament runs created legends that were discussed for decades in coffee shops and barber shops. Team dinners and award banquets recognized achievement and built program culture. Players received letters, certificates, and recognition for their contributions. The banquets reinforced the importance of basketball to school and community identity. The letter jacket was earned through varsity participation. It had a wool body with leather sleeves and school letters. Only varsity players earned the right to wear the jacket. It was a symbol of athletic achievement and social status that lasted throughout high school and beyond. College recruitment was informal and limited. Only the very best players attracted college attention. Most players finished their careers on high school courts. The focus was on high school achievement rather than using high school as a stepping stone to college stardom. Practice was fundamental skill development. with hours of shooting drills, passing exercises, defensive positioning, and conditioning. Coaches emphasized technique over athleticism. Players developed through repetition and discipline rather than raw talent alone. Team chemistry was essential for success. Players spent countless hours together in practice, travel, and games. The relationships formed through shared experience created bonds that lasted beyond playing careers. Basketball taught teamwork in ways classroom education could not duplicate. Injuries were treated with ice, tape, and determination. Players often played through pain that would require medical attention today. Toughness meant getting back on the court. The training staff was small, usually coaches and volunteer parents with basic first aid knowledge. Equipment was simple and durable. Canvas sneakers lasted entire seasons. Uniforms were repaired rather than replaced. Basketballs were used until the leather wore smooth. The focus was on performance rather than appearance. Home court advantage was real and significant. Familiar surroundings, supportive crowds, and knowledge of quirky gym characteristics helped home teams win games they might lose on neutral courts. The crowd could influence officials and intimidate opponents. What defined 1970s high school basketball was its community-centered nature. The games were social events where entire towns gathered. Players were local heroes who represented community pride and tradition. The emphasis on fundamentals created skilled players who could shoot, pass, and play team basketball. The systematic approach to the game produced players who understood strategy and teamwork rather than relying solely on athletic ability. Fundamentals were everything. The social hierarchy created by basketball success was real but temporary. Star players enjoyed recognition and respect during their playing careers. High school basketball was understood as ending with graduation. The lessons learned through basketball were considered more important than the achievements. For players who competed in the 1970s, the memories are vivid and treasured. The squeak of sneakers on hardwood, the swish of perfect shots, the roar of appreciative crowds, the satisfaction of executed plays and team victories. Memories like these last. The 1970s high school basketball experience created bonds between teammates, coaches, and communities that lasted lifetimes. The shared pursuit of excellence, the collective joy of victory, and the mutual support through defeat forged relationships stronger than individual achievement. For those who remember, 1970s high school basketball was what it was, pure and fundamental, and absolutely central to community identity in ways that modern basketball, despite superior athleticism and facilities, struggles to replicate.